If you're listening to this episode, then you've likely been diagnosed with or believe you may have either a redundant or tortuous colon or a megacolon. And you're wondering, if I have one of these things, can I ever overcome my constipation? Unfortunately for you, doctors frequently make it sound like a redundant or tortuous colon or a megacolon are life sentences to constipation. They often make it sound like you have this irreversible structural problem you'll never overcome, and you either have to do a surgery that might not help you anyways, or take tons of laxatives, or you just are not going to poop daily. The good news is that this is simply not true. But I don't expect you to just take my word for it. In today's episode, I'm going to dive into why a redundant or tortuous colon and a megacolon are not life sentences to constipation, why doctors make it seem that way, and what you can do to overcome the bloating and constipation in your life, even if you have a redundant or tortuous colon or a megacolon. Hey friend, welcome to the Better Belly podcast. If you're currently trying endless supplements, doctor visits, and diet changes to heal your mystery symptoms, you are in the right place. We're here to solve the real root causes behind your gut, hormone, skin, sleep, and brain concerns, literally anything and everything in your body. My name is Allison Jordan. I'm a functional medicine practitioner that has supported over 150 clients just like you to heal problems that no one has been able to fix. You don't need a perfect diet or a random supplement you found on Instagram to heal. You need a proven system that heals your whole body from the inside out. That's what I'm here to share with you, episode by episode. It's time to make health easy again. And just as a reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health. Hello, friends. If you are in this episode, I just want to give you a warm welcome. There's a possibility that I actually forwarded this episode to you myself, maybe in a DM or on Instagram, because this is a common question that I get, and I find that there's a lot of despair and confusion over the people who've been diagnosed with or think they might have a tortuous or redundant colon, which I'm going to get into like what that is if you've never heard of it, or a megacolon, right? So these have similar questions and similar answers. So even though they are definitely different, I'm going to talk about how they're different so you just understand the definitions we're working with. But likely this has been forwarded to you because you are familiar with at least one of these terms. You think you have it, you know you have it, and honestly, it's probably been communicated to you that you can't get better. You can't get your constipation to get better, but you're still looking. You're still like, is that really true? What's going on? And I'm really happy today to help just end the conversation, bring some peace to your questions, because I've been working for over 6 years with over 600 clients. I know my intro still says 150, but it's over 600 now. I've worked with over 600 clients dealing with gut health issues that span a wide variety of issues, but also include megacolon and tortuous or the redundant colon, which that's actually the same thing. So I hope again that today's episode puts to rest some of your questions from somebody who is not a doctor, but that's actually a good thing because I'm not coming from the same perspective that's limited, the same limited perspective that your doctors are going to be coming from. Are you guys ready? Okay, so let's start off with what is a redundant colon and a tortuous colon, and then a megacolon. So a redundant colon and a tortuous colon, it's the same thing. It's just a different word for the same thing. Sometimes it's even known as a long colon. I've gotten DMs asking me, like, I have a long colon, or I have a tortuous colon, or I have a redundant colon. I've had clients come into the office. They all call different things because I don't know who thought it was a great idea, but literally if you even Google it, it'll say like, a redundant colon's the same thing as a tortuous colon and sometimes referred to as a long colon. It's just trying to make everyone's lives more confusing. But this is a situation, if you have this, where you are born, so it's a congenital thing. It doesn't develop. It doesn't like happen because of a problem. It literally, you're born with it, where you have extra your large intestine's longer than it should be. So there's more colon, and it's typically going to be in the sigmoid colon area of your body, which is the very last chunk of the colon right before it gets to your rectum. Basically, it's the last area you're going to store poop before you go and poop it out in the rectum. So this area being extra long can cause problems because it's, even on a normal person, it's a little bit of like a loose tissue. It has a little bit of flexibility, and what can happen is that basically the stool is not getting around the loop or the tube very well. It's like almost having to do more of a pin hair turn that like a car is having to do, and it's just slowing the process down. It can even cause some like kinking in the colon, which can just make it harder to poop. So just something to know, you've had it your whole life. Usually, though, these only get diagnosed when there's a problem. And so my clients who've had redundant or tortuous colons, what they'll say is, I always ask them, have you been constipated your whole life? And they'll say no. Like I've never had someone say that. Now they might say that on and off, or like even as a child, they struggled more often to poop, but it wasn't as bad as it is now. That's usually what I'm going to hear, that something has happened and they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. Something has happened in the last decade or so that's consistently or slowly or sometimes suddenly made their constipation worse. And as the doctors are now saying, well, why is this person constipated? They're doing the battery of testing and they find, oh, this person has a longer colon than normal and it's congenital. So you've had it your whole life, but the constipation is new. So this actually becomes really important in the conversation on is your constipation suddenly permanent because you have a redundant or tortuous colon? I'm going to dig into this some more, but the quick answer is no. The other thing that's crazy to know is that you can literally be asymptomatic with a redundant colon. This is a fancy word for you have no symptoms. You're just walking around like a normal person. You have no idea that you have extra colon in your body compared to somebody else. You're not more bloated. You're not experiencing pain. There's nothing, no symptoms. It literally says this in Medical News Today article on redundant colon. So, meaning having a redundant colon doesn't mean you automatically have constipation. Like I said, more on that in a sec. But now you know what a redundant or a tortuous colon is and why there's so many names. Then the next thing is a megacolon. Now, megacolon's very different than this redundant tortuous colon because it does develop. It's not congenital. It's not something you're born with. It develops where typically, again, it's to be that sigmoid colon, maybe up into the descending colon. There's been a lot of stool that's been hanging out there. So you haven't been pooping, the stool's compacting, and it's stretching out the large intestine. So it's literally wider than it should be, where the redundant colon, tortuous colon it's longer than it should be. So the megacolon, it develops from a already pathological process of not pooping, and it does stretch the colon. So one thing I find interesting about the megacolon is that it's a result of not being able to poop. And it's only really a theory that it then also can make it hard to poop. And I like to say theory because of what I'm going to get into next. But essentially, I've had clients with megacolons be able to poop again. The megacolon did not stop them. And even doctors will say you might have a megacolon, or we know you have one. If we can get you to start pooping again, though, the colon might go back to normal size. And they kind of, it's a theory that this megacolon is making you you're basically not getting urges at the appropriate time because your colon's so used to being so full that it has to be extra, extra, extra full to get the urge to poop. But I just do not see that in my practice, where this megacolon is just keeping someone from pooping. So the question now becomes, even if you have a megacolon, what are the other factors making it hard for you to poop? What was keeping you from pooping to begin with? All right. Let's talk about why the doctors make these two conditions sound so freaking permanent. And this is my theory. My theory is that when doctors see someone with a redundant colon, they can't get them to poop with natural tools. So the doctor says, eat more fiber, drink water, take probiotics, take some magnesium, chew more. They send them to pelvic floor therapy, all these different things, and they can't poop. The doctor's looking for something that they can see in the tools that they have to point at why someone can't poop. And so all they can do is say, well, because they don't have the tools that we use in the Better Belly community, right? So you're listening to the Better Belly podcast. My business is Better Belly Therapies. And then we have the Better Belly Blueprint, which is my course where I give you the tools to find the what's causing your constipation, amongst many other symptoms, insomnia, bloating, acid reflux, hormone imbalance, eczema. When you heal the gut, you heal the whole body. Let's just put it at that. But when doctors, they don't have all that testing that we do in the Better Belly Blueprint to see what's causing your constipation, but they can see, well, we've got this x-ray image of your megacolon or of your redundant colon, and so that must be why you can't poop. And in their mind, unless with the megacolon, you can only change it if you get yourself to poop regularly. So their theory is just take laxatives every day, and once you're pooping regularly, the megacolon will shrink down and you'll poop again. I have never seen that work. I've never had a client tell me it worked. I've just never met anyone that was like, maybe it has been for like some people, they needed laxatives just for a short while. The megacolon shrinks again and they're fine. I just have not heard of that. So I don't know why they say it, but they do say it. And then for the redundant colon, you don't like fix it. Sometimes they'll say, they might do a surgery on you. It's not super common. It kind of depends on how much extra colon you have. They'll definitely do surgery on you. In my experience, if you have a blockage or a bowel obstruction, because that's very dangerous, it's very painful, but it can also kill you. Not to be intense, but it can. So basically a bowel obstruction can cause the bowel to die in that area where it gets obstructed. And so that flesh, that part of the bowel that dies, it becomes necrotic, and that necrosis will then cause a infection in the whole abdomen, and you can become septic. So that's why it could kill you. You're like, not to say if you're constipated, it's going to kill you. It's only if there's a bowel obstruction. But it's the level of severity is intense. And I was going to share this later, but since I'm mentioning it right now, I will say the signs of a bowel obstruction are going to be severe abdominal pain. Like a lot of people think like almost the level of like kidney stone pain or giving birth, like the very, very, like it's pain you're probably not going to hang around at home for. You're a little freaked out by how painful it is. And then also vomiting green bile. That can be a sign of a blockage or obstruction of the bowel. And if you just don't know, but you're freaked out, do go to the ER. Go to the doctor, please. So doctors have their own place in the health system, but they do have limitations on what they can do. They don't do everything out there that's possible or needed to heal. That being said, as long as you don't have that full obstruction, then you can still work with a redundant colon, tortuous colon, or that megacolon to help heal. Something else to consider when you're thinking, is the redundant colon or the tortuous colon or the megacolon, are these permanent? I want you to think the fact that I have clients with very normal length colons, very normal size colons, who also still can't poop. So there are things that can cause you to be extremely chronically constipated and not have the megacolon or the tortuous colon. And you can have a tortuous colon and be asymptomatic, which is another sign that it's not the colon causing the problem. The colon might be adding another layer to the problem, but it's not the only thing causing it. And it's not the only, like if you had a point in life where you were pooping better than you are now and you have a tortuous colon, then you have a new thing that's been introduced to your body. And I'm going to talk about those things when I get to the section on how to overcome the constipation. Like it's like how to overcome it regardless. It doesn't matter if you have a tortuous colon or a megacolon or a normal size colon. The way to heal it is the same, which has been so relieving and amazing to see in our Better Belly community with those over 600 clients who've gone through this process to heal their gut. But to put a nail in the coffin on this conversation of why doctors make it seem permanent when it's not, like why they make constipation seem permanent to these people with megacolons and redundant colons, is that I think that doctors, they're trying to, getting back to the conversation, they're trying to, even in their minds, give a rationale or logic. Why can't this person poop based off of what I can see, what I know, the data in front of me? And they will see this it's a correlation oh, they have a redundant colon and they have constipation. They must be causing it. But correlation is not causation. This is a big no-no in the area of science, that just because something's happening at the same time, I don't know, let's say every time the sun rises, you hear a bird chirp every day, right? The same bird, the same time the sun rises, there's a correlation. They're happening at the same time. Causation would be, I believe that bird chirping is causing the sun to rise, right? That would be, that's incorrect, because we know that the sun rises because of the rotation of the earth and gravity and the universe and like space and all this stuff, right? But it just happens to be a correlation that you just happen to have a bird chirping at the same time that the sun rises every single day. And so what they're doing is they're saying, well, I'm seeing a correlation that this person can't poop and there's a redundant colon, so the redundant colon must be causing them not to poop. That's actually bad science. So at the end of the day, you want to know what is actually causing the constipation, because while the doctor seems so confident that you can't poop because of your megacolon or your tortuous colon, the good news is that there's a lot of hope. So how do you overcome it? This is what I recommend you do. You're going to go to betterbellytherapies.com/training, and you're going to see a video called How to Heal Your Gut to End Constipation, Acid Reflux, and Hormone Imbalance. Go watch that video. And I am not saying this in this podcast episode because I'm trying to gatekeep or make you have to go listen to one more thing or click one more button. I know you will have to click a few buttons to go watch that video, but I have shared on this podcast, the Better Belly podcast, over 200 episodes. I've shared so many times how to heal your gut from constipation, bloating, acid reflux, hormone imbalance, PMS, eczema, all these different things, because they're all connected. They're all connected by the gut. I've shared it so many times that I just decided I was going to make a separate training to go and point you to anytime I say, here's how to heal your gut on the podcast, because I've said it so many times. I thought I would just make a once and for all video to point you to. So go to betterbellytherapies.com/training. I boil down everything you need to know to heal your gut, plus like a lot of the common reasons why you haven't healed your gut yet. Like, what are the things that, when people say, go take magnesium, go take probiotics, take this, lab test. Maybe you've done some functional lab testing. Maybe you haven't. Whatever you've done, there are very common problems that I'm seeing people run into that's keeping them from overcoming their bloating, their constipation, their acid reflux, whatever they're dealing with. And for this episode, you're probably most likely dealing with constipation, at least that, but likely other symptoms on top of that. And they're all going to improve when you deal with the root causes, which this training is going to teach you what that is. So the most common problem I see that keeps people constipated is not their colon size or their shape, but not addressing something called the 5-toxin trap. And in my experience, constipation isn't caused by one thing. You just need that one right magnesium type, or you just need to eat more mindfully, or you just need to be less stressed. The body's super resilient. And so one thing, I've never seen someone just need one thing to be, fixed for them to start pooping, but it's multiple things. So there's this 5-toxin trap, and inside of the toxin trap, usually people are dealing with 2 to 5 of those toxin types and their categories. And some of the categories, you might have 3 types of that toxin in that category. And I talk about that in the training. So go to betterbellytherapies.com/training, or you can click the link in the show notes. This training's shorter than your favorite TV show. You can watch it on 2x speed, and just, even if you need to, just skip to minute 1403, where I start the section on the 5-toxin trap, which is section 2 of the video. And you'll learn what the 5-toxin categories are. And my training also teaches you about the course that I built so that you can easily find out which toxins you are specifically dealing with and how to address them in the fastest way possible to heal. I'm not trying to gatekeep in this episode. I'm just kind of trying to point you to resources I've already made, because it does get a little redundant if you've been listening to the podcast at all. If you're new, I want to welcome you with whole heart. But if you've been here for a while, you might actually notice sometimes I sound a little redundant. And I think that's a good thing, because it means there are things that I'm finding that are consistently helping clients, and there's not 20 billion things you need to do, right? There's not just an infinite number of Googleplex things that someone could do and you'll never find the right combination. No, there's a combination that I've found and I put it in a course and I gave you the tools for how to find what you specifically need to do, because not everyone needs the same things, right? If Betty does something to heal her constipation, you might not heal from what Betty did. And that's actually probably been your experience already. Where someone's like, I ate 2 kiwis a day and I got rid of my constipation. And you're like, I wish that was me. So again, go to betterbellytherapies.com/training. Go learn what the 5 toxin trap is, how you can find which toxins you're dealing with, and how to address each of those toxins in the fastest way possible. So I hope this episode created a lot of clarity for you on like nail in the coffin. Redundant and tortuous colons are not a life sentence. Neither is a megacolon. You want to be looking deeper into what is causing your motility to slow down and your gastric juices, your digestive juices to reduce. All those things are things that I teach in the training, or at least I allude to, and that I help you figure out which ones you're dealing with in my course and how to get rid of them. Because when you do, you start pooping again. It just happens every single time. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you in 2 days on Thursday for the next episode, which is literally going to be the beginning of our mold month series. I'm so excited. If you're like, mold sounds like the last thing I want to learn about, come back and listen to the episode on Thursday. I'm going to talk to you about why you actually want to care about mold toxicity and mold illness if you have symptoms you just cannot get rid of. Mold can be behind a lot of different things. And then if you listen to the episode and you feel like mold month is not for you, then sure, don't listen to the rest of it. But mold illness has been behind over 60% of my clients' cases. It's a very common problem behind people's chronic issues that are not being healed by their diet change and by their supplements they take and by the functional lab testing they've done and by the mindfulness or the prayer. Like, not to poo-poo these things, but like when you feel like you've done all the really hard things to change and you still haven't healed, you probably want to be thinking about mold. So come back in 2 days. And if it's already in the future, go and listen to the whole mold month series. It's going to be awesome. Catch you guys in 2 days. Hey friend, I hope you loved this episode. If you've been a fan for a while or newly loving this podcast, can you do me a favor? Drop into Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. When you leave a review, you do so much. You help me know you're listening. You can tell me what you're loving so I know what to make more of. And you help others by boosting this podcast so other people like you can find the podcast too. I mean, it's a win-win-win, right? So if you want a way to pay it forward, just go to Apple Podcasts or click the link in my show notes and leave a rating and review. And if you want some more free stuff, just head over to my free Facebook group, betterbellytherapies.com/Facebook, and you can get access to all of my free support for you, including some Facebook group exclusive stuff like my podcast episode vault, where you can search the Better Belly podcast by topic and find exactly what you need to expedite your healing. I cannot wait to see you in there. Catch you guys next week.